Hi, my name is Marina Elliott. I am one of the primary excavators from the Rising Star expedition. I'm now doing a postdoctoral fellowship at Wits University and continuing to excavate in the Rising Star cave system and do research on the material that we've brought up.
You mentioned that you're a postdoc. For a number of folks out there who may be watching this, what does that really mean?
Yeah, a postdoc or a postdoctoral fellow is someone who has finished their PhD and is now working for a university as a research individual or research capacity, basically with a project and continuing to just do research.
Cool, okay. Now you were one of the critical members of the original excavation team. I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit about your past, what one allowed you to be in a position to do that, and then how the heck did such an opportunity come your way?
Okay. I was born and raised in Alberta, in Canada, and spent a lot of my youth in and under ground. So I spent a lot of time caving and climbing as a kid, and then as an adult I got into climbing in a big way, so sport climbing. So I had all of that skill set first, and then I was doing a PhD in anthropology in Canada, and my supervisor sent me the notification that Lee put online, actually on Facebook, asking for people with excavation skills, plus people who weren't afraid of small spaces and difficult access, and someone who could work in a team in a very confined area. And I read the ad and thought, well, that sounds like me, and applied. And of something around the order of 60 candidates, I was one of the lucky 6.
And had you done anything in your past in particular that might have made you well suited to deal with a fossil excavation like this? Obviously you had the caving expertise, but was there anything in your education maybe that was helpful?
Yeah, I was also lucky enough to do 2 field seasons, one in Siberia on the shores of Lake Baikal, and that also involved mortuary archaeology, so the archaeology of burials. And then I did another field season in northern Alaska that also was a burial situation. So both of those gave me pretty good skill set in excavating human remains, and also, I guess, in excavating in extreme environments.
And I'd say, yeah, this cave certainly qualifies
as an extreme environment. It really does.
So,
yeah.
And so, if you don't mind, since you're one of the very few people who's actually seen the fossils in their resting place, tell us a little bit about the first visit, how you finally got here, and the first visits down in the cave.
Mm-hmm. Lee put out that call that I responded to in early October of 2013, and by the beginning of November, we were all here in Africa getting ready to do this expedition. And so the first day, we got sort of a tour of the cave, got a chance to see where we were going to be going, and you've probably heard all the terms, but at the top of Dragon's Back, we went into the little narrow area and looked down the chute, and that first glimpse of where I was going to have to go the next day or the day after was a little nerve-wracking. You look down and it's just sort of a crack with sharp, jagged hooks coming into it, and so it looks pretty confined, and it is.
Now, I think a lot of us who watched from a distance had the feeling that the chute was plenty wide most of the way, and then had one pinching narrow spot. But apparently I'm getting the idea that wasn't the case.
Not quite the case, no. It's actually quite narrow throughout the whole section of it. And it's basically sort of a long, thin crack, and the tightest part of it is 17 centimeters, or I don't even know what that is in inches, 17 centimeters, and then really even at its widest, you can easily have your back against one wall and touch the other side quite closely. And it's really a sort of a shimmy down this long crevasse, and it's a shimmy with teeth, I guess I would say, because there's a lot of sharp, as you can probably see from the background and everything. The rock here is very sharp and jagged, so you're negotiating yourself around all these sort of outcroppings and trying to also work your way down. Then you asked, I guess, about what it was like to actually get into the chamber for the first time.
Yeah, so how long did you get used to the cave before you actually made it all the way to the chamber?
I think it was the next day that we went in.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we camp was being set up, and we had a little tour through the cave, and I think the next day they just said, okay, jump right in. So, yeah, and it was amazing. The cavers obviously came with us to lead the way, and I remember, being at the top of the chute and sort of looking down, watching Steve go down the chute and sort of trying to figure out in my head how best to follow him, the route to take. And, once we got down, there's a bit of what we call the landing zone, and then it's actually in kind of an open chamber, and then there's another narrow little hallway, and then it opens up into the actual excavation chamber. And that was really special. Just the excitement and the sort of nervousness of going into that space for the first time was really exciting. And I said at the time that it was akin to to Howard Carter moving into Tutankhamun's tomb for the first time, and he had managed to chip away that little viewing hole that he could see into the tomb for the first time, and someone in the background saying, "What's in there?" And he says, "Things, wonderful things." And there was that real thrill of just going in for the first time and seeing that there all this bone material all over the floor.
And what was your expectation going in from what you had heard from Lee and others?
Yeah. I think, Lee, from the photographs that he had seen that Rick and Steve took, and we, in his mind and in all of our minds, we really thought this was just sort of an accidental find, and that we were dealing with a single individual, and it would be sort of a quick salvage operation, basically, that we were just going to get this one skeleton out and it would be done within a few weeks. And that was not the case.
And how long did it take for you to realize that was not the case?
I think it was probably within a week or so we realized that we were dealing with more than one individual, and that was as a result of a duplicated element, so a bone where we had two of the same one. And I think it was pretty smartly that we realized not only were we dealing with a volume of material that didn't really make sense for one individual, and that we were dealing with a very complicated, very interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. And to give folks back home a sense, how big is that excavation area you're talking about? Because we hear about it being littered with bones, and are we talking a massive area where the bones are lightly scattered over, or?
Yeah, no. We collected a couple of hundred bones and bone fragments from the surface of the cave, and those were concentrated really in two very small areas, about this size, about the size of a shoebox, really, more than anything. And then the actual excavation area we did in the end 2 excavations, one in November of 2013 with all 6 of us, and then a second very short excavation in March of 2014 with just Becca and me. So in the end, the grand total of the excavation area that we moved in was 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters by an average of 15 centimeters deep. And out of that, we got over 1,700 fragments. So that's an impressive amount of material.
Yes, that may be the densest assemblage of fossils ever collected in Africa.
I'm sure it's close. Yeah, if not the, yeah.
And so what do you see looking ahead, I take it you didn't get all the fossils out.
Nope. Yeah, not even close. This small area that we excavated, even now we can still see that there's little tantalizing pieces still in the walls of the edges. And I suspect that over the entire floor of this cave there's much more material. So this is lifetimes of work for archaeologists and paleoanthropologists.
So, with the excavations in the main chamber there done, was there really? You mentioned that there's a lifetime left of work. No need to go and look for other stuff, right?
Well, you could say that, but we don't. We will continue in 101 probably at some point. At the moment, we're giving it a chance to sort of maybe giving us a chance to sit and think about how best to do things. But in the meantime, we actually have identified several other areas of interest in the rising star system. I'm starting to excavate in another section, and we have several other sections of the rising star cave that are potentially very interesting. And in addition, we have our cavers working very hard, exploring still out in the cradle of humankind. So this area has been known as an important area for human fossils for a long time. And it's just important to keep looking. Sometimes it's easy to have a very rich site and say, okay, yeah, we're done. We can just happily work this till the cows come home. But there's plenty of other places to look and lots of other things to find. And one of our goals is actually to cover the cradle in a way that we can sort of generate almost a database of where these fossils are and how they are distributed over a landscape, which is actually really important for paleo studies.
That makes sense. And how is the team here at WITS gone about doing that?
Well, we have a really brilliant team of cavers who are out 3 or 4 days a week, and they basically have identified, partly from earlier work that Lee had done, looking at caves and identifying where caves are on a landscape, and then for them actually going in to these caves and pushing these little holes and squeezing themselves through these nasty little spaces, and just looking, keeping an eye out, looking for fossils in the breccia, in the hard rock, looking for material in the looser soils, and then when they find something that looks interesting, they call me, and so I also go down and we sort of do an assessment, look at the conditions, mark the area on a map, and then go from there.
That sounds good. What, as we look ahead kind of to the future of things, obviously there's a lot of work left to be done with 101. I think we'll be hearing about this project for many years to come. What is it that as you look ahead to the future, what do you think that this work brings to the field of study?
Wow. So much. There's, it's not just for me anyway, it's not just the scientific interest, which is huge. I think there's, this particular site is very important for a number of reasons, scientifically and for the paleoanthropological community, but also just for general exploration, to remind people that you should be looking still. That I think a lot of people have the idea that all that glorious age of discovery and exploration is all in the past, and that there's nothing left to discover. There's nothing new left, and that's, in my mind, totally wrong. We've got lots and lots to discover yet. There's plenty of room for people who are interested and committed and passionate about doing science and exploring the world and just seeing what's out there. There's lots more to do in in all sorts of disciplines.
Cool. And I appreciate your time. I have one last question for you. That, as you look back on the experience so far, and we're sitting here in July of 2015, so it's been, a year and a half, give or take a little bit. What's your favorite memory of what's happened thus far?
Oh my. That's a very good question. There are so many. Actually, I would have to say, I guess maybe just it's not so much a single memory as a memory of the sort of the first experience, that whole month at Rising Star with the full team of people, and it being busy with volunteers and helpers and all these people moving in and out of this space, and everybody working so well together under what can only be described as utterly unusual circumstances. Very few of us knew each other before we got here. We didn't really know what we were getting into. We really didn't have a plan. And it all happened so quickly. And yet it came together in a most remarkable way. And so for me, I think just that sense of camaraderie, that really amazing team effort for that very intense period of time was incredibly special. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate all the time you've put into this. I know that there's much more work to be done around here today, so we need to let you go so you can do that. But your time and effort and willingness to share with us means a great deal.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And hopefully as things get announced, hopefully in the not so distant future, we may be able to touch base with you from Texas and
absolutely do this again
and follow up a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.